Thinking about how food shapes who we are, wondering how our meals connect our identity, culture, and health. Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here. Stay tuned and hear what Yvette Strachan, a licensed nutritionist and certified diabetes educator, to explore how food impacts what we think, how we feel, and the energy we bring daily.
Something to think about with Dale Happy Knowles. What we think, we become. What we radiate, we attract. What we imagine, we surely can achieve. Let's change the narrative, 242.
Welcome to the show. Yvette, how are you today?
I am excellent, Dale. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
You're quite welcome. Now, I know you as Yvette, and some people know you as Miss Strachan, and some may know you as, I don't know what, doctor? What's your professional title that they call you?
I'm licensed nutritionist, dietitian.
I mean, like how people refer to you to work when they come to see you.
Just Miss Strachan.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, whichever one makes you comfortable is how we can be today.
That's fine.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about connecting food and with identity, culture, and health. And as we go, we want to welcome you all out there in the 242. Those as far as Ghana, all the way down there in France, well, up there in France, I should say, and so forth. And I heard somebody tell me they was talking from South America. One of them countries, they was telling me the other day, somebody was saying that they were speaking with somebody who was watching the show. So we seem to be stretching our reach piece by piece. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Cool. So, yes. As I mentioned, you're a licensed nutritionist, and I don't know if people understand what that is. So tell us a little bit about what that is.
Okay, so what it is that you are a dietitian nutritionist. What we do is we study food science. So in the field of dietetics and nutrition, what we do is we either work with patients or clients to talk to them about how their food really impacts their overall health, whether it is for overall wellness or for disease prevention or also disease management. We look at the whole components of food, from culinary nutrition to vitamins, supplements, to meal planning, and really structuring it into an individual's diet and how they should live day to day. Because as we know, food is medicine, as medicine is food. So that is really the field of dietetics and nutrition. And you have different persons, but like myself, I particularly work in clinical nutrition, where we do more of food as medicine and work with patients and making sure that they're well enough to eat and they eat to be well.
So food is medicine. That's like bush medicine, as in regular medicine, pharmaceutical medicines. What kind of medicine food is?
Well, we're talking about food as medicine has to do with, back in the day when Hippocrates said that term, and we didn't have pharmaceutical means. So you use your food either to help you rather than harm you. So you look at food for, let's say, for example, you look at something like ginger when you have an upset stomach. So we know that evidence-based studies show that certain nutrients or components of the ginger has a GI kind of comforting effect of the food. Mm-hmm. And then we know the omega-3 fatty acids, such as fish oils. Remember when we were younger, we used to take the 7 C's fish oil. A lot of people didn't like that. And it does have some type of an anti-inflammatory and heart protective effect. But as we look at food as medicine, you're going it from the old adage of, in the bush medicine. So what we're doing now, you see that a lot of persons are looking at these black seed oil and aloe and how it can have an impact. So we're catching up nowadays. So back then they converted it to pharmaceutical means, but right now we're really looking at opportunities where we can look at the bush medicine and really standardize it and figure out what are the benefits of this type of food as medicine.
Right. So it seems like we're moving from Grammy and with Grammy old tales and the wise man doctor who used to, I don't call what they used to call him, but anyway, they into high science, and then we come down to people like yourselves who apply it and
Yes.
so forth. Right?
Yes. So what we
Okay.
call it, Dale, we call it evidence-based medical practice or evidence-based clinical practice in the case of clinical nutrition.
Right.
So we can,
Okay.
yes, that's what
Cool.
we use. So it's important for the listening public out there to know that.
So folks, that's the smart people, right? So, all right. So I always use this quote to find how we can achieve things, because it says, Ivor Bell says that knowledge is power, but enthusiasm pulls the switch, right? And so when we look at that, then what we find is that persons like yourself will tell people like me all kind of things that we need to do or what we should do or how we could become more healthy or all those different things. But we might get onto it for 1 week, 2 weeks, and then we find ourselves fall the way back into the same picture. So we don't have the enthusiasm to pull the switch. What would you speak to quickly to say, not quickly, but to say how people can connect between the two? Because you are sharing a lot of knowledge today, and we want the people to end with the enthusiasm to be able to do it.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that, Dale, because I think it really goes off the heel of our message, in which I'll introduce our National Nutrition Month message for this month or this year, 2025, which is food connects us. And so how timely is it that you're saying right here, enthusiasm. So if we can become very enthusiastic about pulling the switch or keep doing what we're doing with this kind of message, because we know that food connects us, even as like in your church groups, food connects us. We have socials afterwards. Food connects us to our cultures, our family, and our friends. So sharing a meal is, you can be enthusiastic about sharing this meal. And this is an opportunity, because of the enthusiastic nature of that, to learn about the various preparation, who made it, and the ingredients we sourced it. So you can make all these connecting gatherings with food more of a learning experience for Bahamians. So you can get very enthusiastic. You can make it a challenge. You can talk about, a grilling healthy vegetables and adding some things into your diet. So we can use this whole concept of food connects us. So be enthusiastic, as well as use it as a learning opportunity to pull the switch and do what we have to do.
Yeah, because we know we like competition. We like be first, and we don't even pull for people who don't be first. So we got that crazy thing going on. All right.
So once again, we want to explore the connection of food and culture, and then we can explore the connection of food and health, and just tie it all together.
Cool. So food is a reflection of who we are, and I'm a firm believer of that. Excuse me. And so, how does what we eat define our personal and cultural identity?
Okay. So how does it define us? I think let's take it from the cultural perspective. And so I know this is your show, so I'll ask you. So growing up, we all grew up eating.
I ain't grew up yet.
We all grew up eating from the same table, right? So, and also just culturalists in the Bahamas. So we're used to our conch, we're used to our seafood, we're used to our peas and rice, and what else? Macaroni, potato salad. So
piece of chicken.
Fried piece of chicken. So it does define us and our culture. Let's look at some of our cultural festivals around, even if it's a Christmas holiday or Jonkanu. but there's some type of component. You look at Benny cake, you look at fruit cake. So it defines us. You know, you look at crab and dough. What else can you remember since you're not growing up yet?
But as I can remember cup and Laffy Taffy and
salty.
And all them salty and all them things. And slam bam.
Cup and salty and baggy. And I mean, I do remember
Sardine.
And
Sardine
spam.
and corned beef.
Anyone out there, the listening audience, remember spam?
Yeah. Well, yes, and folks, do remember that you can comment and join us in the conversation. And, you know, we want this for you. So don't be shy.
So just to finish up, it does define what we eat based on how we grew up, right? And also cultural wise, religious wise, you have some persons who grew up in the Seventh-day Adventist home. And so that also defines their cultural identity and personal identity. There's certain foods that they don't eat. But again, with this question you pose here, it still should have some type of connect, using that cultural identity to connect us, to really use food to bring us together, but also be safe and help us be well.
Right. Well, it's a key one right there. Right. Because I know I've changed my diet 3 times so far. Right?
3 times? Tell us about it.
Well, once was when I went to play competitive ball in university. My diet, my diet had to change to become more, I guess, so they could beef me up. They say I was a little too small.
More protein?
Well, yeah, mix of that, yeah. Mostly protein and stuff like that. And actually, then with the cancer, even though they told me I could eat anything I wanted to eat, just eat it in moderation.
Right.
You do your research and you find out what things will, I guess, accelerate cancer and what will not. And so you make adjustments for that. And now you're getting a little bit over the hill where you don't have as much hair on your head as you used to have. You got to go back to some of the higher protein type scenarios to keep muscle mass on your body.
There you go. And I'm glad you said that, Dale, because, you know, I'm trying to make it simple for the listening audience. You talk about your experience from across all stages of life, when you're a competitive athlete, when you had your challenge with cancer. So we need to know that we build the connection with food and nutrition across all the stages of life. As you get older, like you say, now we need it to be more lean mass, or you need to eat maybe softer food. So while the amount of nutrients we need changes from we're infants to now that we're probably getting to older, more mature adults, these type of essential nutrients play a very vital role across the life cycle. And so we have to connect the children, the babies, our elderly members, ourselves as we get older, consuming adequate calcium, vitamin B, as well as the protein to help build mass. We know that for the elderly persons out there may be some form of muscle wasting. You know, they start to look thin and frail. So we got to make sure they have enough protein, and they may not be eating as well. So I need to then talk about, all right, can we look at some supplements or smoothies and adding some protein to their diet? So these are very key for building the connection across all the stages of life. And I'm glad that you said that. So that's very, very vital.
Awesome. So when we look at that then, and we say in a world that's constantly evolving, how can we maintain cultural food traditions, but while making the choices that support long-term health? Right?
Okay. So I think we're good with knowing what our traditions are. I think one of the key thing is to meet with persons like myself, a dietitian or nutritionist, to then tie it to support your long-term health goals. So even you may want it to eat that salty or cup. You're not doing that now, but you're gonna meet with us and say, hey, Mr. Dale, you're getting older, your cholesterol, the saturated fat and the salty is not really good for your cholesterol or your heart health. So we're going to still culturally connect it, but we got to make some pivots. We got to make some changes and say, all right, not every day, but these are some things that you should be adding into your diet now. So culturally, we may have the peas and rice, correct? We can have that. So we may say, okay, how are some other, and with the coconut milk, how are other ways that we can make this peas and rice so that you can maintain the cultural aspect of the food, but make it a little healthier? So you meet with a dietitian, we tell you use olive oil, maybe while you fry down your herbs. Don't use the canned tomatoes, but you can use the fresh tomatoes. Some people have those tomatoes in the bottle. I think from Cat Island they make it.
Steeping. I call it steeping. I know what they call it.
Exactly. And then we talk about using less salt. So instead of using maybe the salt or the Maggi and your peas and rice, you can use your thyme, your herbs, and definitely give it good flavor. So it's really about educating to answer this question. It's constantly evolving and using the right science. So let's use, for example, people say, I don't use salt, but they use the rock salt from Managua.
Oh, gee.
But you and I know, but some persons don't know what it says.
You might be mashing some corns.
They say the rock salt better than that Morton salt or whatever. But guess what? We see those same people with the hypertension, and we see those same persons with kidney failure because of too much salt that they were having in their diet.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So all of these, like we maintain the cultural food traditions, we have to really make educated choices or health choices to make some pivots to really sustain healthy meals, and so that we reach our long-term health goals, which is to live long and live healthy.
Right. And so when we talk about that, you mentioned that you didn't say get rid of, because that's what a lot of people fear, right? They say they don't go to the doctor, but doctors say you have to cut this out or cut that out. You still say you could live with your culture and so forth, but you got to do it and tweak it.
In moderation.
Moderation for the time.
You tweak it. And let's look at something cultural like Kong salad. Okay, now if you don't have a problem with the cholesterol, and you can have the Kong salad is a healthy dish. I have a colleague, Dr. Simonet, she always used to say, this in Kong salad, you got your herbs, you got your tomatoes, and now they put some pineapple in it. They put some fresh squeezed orange juice, and that's your vitamin C. You got your, what they put else in Kong salad. And so
they really put too much stuff in it. I don't like it like that. But,
oh, you like a scotch?
Yeah, like scotch or regular Kong salad. Yeah.
And what happened to your herbs and vegetables? So see, this is a good example of how do you maintain the culture, but also make choices that support your health goals. So you may not like it, but you need to add some onions and those green pepper.
No. I'm one who don't really like cooked onions and stuff like that, but I always used to get my onions from Kong salad, because the fresh onions would be in the Kong salad.
Okay,
right?
So that's good. That's still good. You get a round of applause for that.
Okay, that's 1 star. How many stars I need to get today, teacher?
5.
5. Okay. Boy, that's a tough teacher.
So that's a very good question.
Yeah. Good. So when we look at nutrition and our well-being, right, and we have this thing we call the new built environment, where we're trying to create an environment in the Bahamas where we could create this $100 billion economy, based on being able to sustain our economy for generations, right, to come, using pivoting on politics, economics, and social growth. So when we look at all of that, then how do our food choices influence not just our physical health, but our mental clarity, energy, and overall success? And I ask that from the point of view that we go to work every day, whether we want to or not, most people. And maybe they find by 11, 12 o'clock, they already burn out, they can't think straight, and so forth. We have the scenario from church where we did the food program for one of the primary schools in the West, and couple of years back, and you found that the children's grades went up just for serving them breakfast. Now the government is doing it across the whole to do, right? So how does that impact all of that?
That's a very good question. You talk about mental clarity, energy, and overall success, whether it's in work or at school. You really have to start with seeing how, and glad that to build a healthy plate. So get your plate in shape. So, and it really starts with consuming something with breakfast. We have our eatright.org, which is our a National Society Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. And they make it simple, Dale. So get your plate in shape, right? So control your portions, eat breakfast at first. So you want to start the day with a healthy breakfast that includes like protein, whole grains, some fruits and vegetables, maybe like a vegetable omelet, some yogurt and fruit, or just some toast, whole grain toast, some peanut butter, and like half a banana. Those kind of things that is quick and convenient can really contribute to your mental clarity in the day, as well as give you energy.
That sounds like my smoothie.
Exactly. So, for example, we do smoothies for some of our patients, and you can start your day with a high-pack protein smoothie, protein, vegetable, fruit smoothie. That's right there. That's a complete, nutritionally complete meal. So
I hope my mommy listening to this because she don't think I eat breakfast, but that's a good breakfast then. You just endorse my breakfast. Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. You can have a smoothie for breakfast. So, and then that's natural. They have other meal replacement, like the shakes, some of the brands that are out there, Ensure or Boost. But to make your own is even better. It's more natural. Okay. And you can use stuff like you ever did a dilly smoothie, which has a lot of fiber inside. We'll take out the seeds though. You can do, and you can mix it up, and mango smoothies when they're in season. And then you can throw in some spinach, all kind of stuff. And then you can still get your protein powder and add that too. And that's your complete meal right there.
Right.
So what else?
Awesome.
Mental clarity. You just have to watch your portion size, read the food labels, drink more water, eliminate the excess salt and eliminate the excess sugar, and then the carbs. So half of your plate, you take a circle of a plate, half of your plate should be vegetables. And you take the other quarter of this plate. So I'll take that plate. You take the other quarter of the plate. So I have a plate right here. Let's do this real quick.
Teach us.
Sorry. So if I had a marker, I would have done it. But half of the plate right here. So on this half is going to be filled with just vegetables. So now the quarter of this section right here, half the plate now is rice and grits and pasta. So we have to swap that. Okay. We have to put that to the smaller quadrant of your plate. And then over here would be your meat. So your meat would be in. So if you draw a line like this, let's do an imaginary line.
Yeah.
So half of here is the vegetables. And that's non-starchy vegetables. So we're talking about our lettuce, tomatoes, okra, some mushrooms, you have some green beans, those kind of stuff. And then on the other half, you would have split the plate. So you half your portion of your carbs, like your rice and grits, the pasta, because we really overdo that. Okay. So what else is
on that point, before you leave that point then, so for the persons who struggle to to produce enough to have full meals for everybody, and we like this concept of stretching or putting in fillers so people could feel full when they leave the table and so forth. But does that really work? How long does that last?
You mean like if you fill up on rice and those kind of things?
Yeah, the things that make you feel more full, you eat more of that versus, and so, somebody might say, well, eat more of this.
So the myth is that we think that the rice and the bread are can make you full, or pasta. But it's actually the most filling, scientifically, proteins. Our meat is most filling and satiating. So that's why we
Okay.
try to balance our plate with some type of protein. And if you're a vegetarian, you don't have to eat the meat. So you got
Hmm.
beans and nuts and fish
Right.
and lean chicken and grouper, boiled grouper. Those things are more filling. So you will stay full. You won't get as hungry as if you eat a bunch of rice, because that's a carb. It's not as filling. The what we call satiating,
Hmm.
more satisfying, and curbs your hunger is protein. So that's why you have to add that and balance that into your diet. So the fillers, I think, is just really dispelling that myth, but we just
Hmm.
know that protein is
Right.
really what you should get in.
And your water.
And water. Drink your water. And so let's get back to this question. So being
Hmm.
mentally alert and mentally clear. So you need to also look at supplement with caution, right? If you're doing a multivitamin, choose foods first, right? For your nutritional
Hmm.
needs. We will always go first with the nutritional needs. But pretty much you talk about the kids that may not be getting in their supplements every day or enough nutrients. So we have to look at, maybe looking at their foods to add in more calcium, to add in more phosphorus for their healthy growth. But even for
Hmm.
ourselves alone, we have to look at maybe our diet is lacking on vitamin D or B complex. Our diet is lacking in iron, or maybe our labs show that I have low iron, or I have I may be deficient in this nutrient.
Right.
So you need to meet with ourselves, the dietitian, nutritionist.
Hmm.
We really talk about what deficiencies you may have, and then let's see if we can fix that. And then you get your energy and clarity back for overall success. So it all has to come together. So in summary, looking at shaping your plate, let's build
Hmm.
a better plate. Look at, like you say, drink your water, eliminating added sugars, added salts, and really exploring making sure that your plate is balanced with protein, carbs, and half of the plate is more that colorful rainbow of fruits and vegetables. And you should
Yeah.
be good for overall success.
And when you say added sugars, you're talking about stuff like the donuts and cakes and all of kind of stuff, because there's sugar in vegetables and stuff already, right? Some things.
Yes, so they what we call right. So we're talking about added refined sugars from food and drinks, like your sodas,
Hmm.
your snacks, the
Switcher.
danishes and the
Hmm.
sweets. Right. And so you wanna, use it in moderation. You go to a birthday party, you can have some cake, you can have a
Yeah.
little ice cream, but
Right.
not every
You
day
gotta
you're
live. Yeah.
waking up.
Mhm.
Not
Yeah.
right. So food should be, it should connect us. It should be it should be an enjoyment, but it shouldn't harm
Mhm.
us.
Right.
Right?
Okay. Good. All right. That's great. We could sound like we could have a class on that. That's one session by itself. So many believe that eating healthy is expensive. And I guess with all these
Mhm.
tariff wars going on, things can go up again. So then you had to cry more so. But
Well, do you
how
know the
do
cost of the eggs?
yeah, well, I mean, we show also that if we act smartly, then we don't necessarily have to have things as high as what they are. I'm not saying they won't be high, but it don't necessarily have to be as high as it is.
Mhm.
So how do we make the nutritionist eating more feasible and accessible for the average payment?
Boy, that's a very good
That's
question. So
my heart still
that's
that's
more
still
of a
on.
policy, that's more a policy debate. But however,
Mhm.
we still have to have some
So it's nothing we
strategy.
could do as individuals to
Yes,
try
most
and make
definitely.
it.
Most
Okay. Mhm.
definitely. So some things is number one, buy local. Buy from your local farmers, from your seafood. Even seafood is really expensive, but you can
Mhm.
bargain. So you buy local. You have some persons who are doing like they harvesting their own eggs. They have chickens, and so a carton of I know a young lady who does her eggs, and her carton of eggs is like $4 or $5 compared to what we're spending $9. So you really
Mm-hmm.
have to look at some of the different areas, the farmers market on Gladstone Road, Cowpen Road. You look at these stuff. Number one. And I know it sounds cliche, but everybody was growing in COVID, growing their vegetables, and some people really stopped. It may not be a sustainable thing to sustain a whole family, but even your herbs you can grow. I have a
Mm-hmm.
rosemary garden. I don't have to buy rosemary in the food store. I
Okay.
just
Mm-hmm.
go, I just go and pick it up. I have, you can do your tomatoes. You can do some of those things that can grow once you have that green thumb. Second, you
Mm-hmm.
can buy in bulk. Okay. You can buy in bulk or you look at ways in which you can, and look at the specials. You look at the specials and buy in bulk. Figure out if you don't even want to buy in bulk, you can partner with your sister, partner
Right.
with your niece or whatever who wants that case of salmon
Mm-hmm.
from the wholesaler on Gladstone
Right.
Road. Like I may not be able to afford $150, but that
Right.
same case I can split, 4 ways, and each person get some salmon, pieces of
Right.
salmon for 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Right.
Um, what are some other ways that you can uh, be feasible? Try to eliminate waste. Okay, try to cook based on your portion. Now,
Right.
I know a lot of Bahamians are out there and we cook on a Sunday 3 or 4 different meats.
Mm-hmm. It got last the week, they say. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but by the time you get Tuesday, you see that, oh, I want that. I want something else, right? And what happens
Mm-hmm.
to that food?
I guess either the dog get it or the garbage, one or two.
Right. So these are some ways in which we can really look at looking at ways to buy healthy, less
Mm-hmm.
expensive. Look at the local vendors. But until we're able to really change policies and look at hopefully as a country how we can be self-sustaining and really take farming at a large scale to be able to
Mm-hmm.
be the key suppliers, like some other countries in the Caribbean, in Jamaica, Trinidad, they
Right.
can sustain themselves. Unfortunately, we can't. Last year, our National Nutrition Month theme was food sustainability. How can we look into the future to sustain ourselves? We have
Okay.
so we have some work to do in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's improving. I won't fall on the line with the people who say nothing changing, but it's we're getting there slowly. But I believe
Mhm.
we do things through exponential curves. We go dead slow, and then all of a sudden something has come slap us like a COVID or whatever, and then whop, we're doing it in big, like it's been some new
But I
idea that
think
come
I
along.
think I think they were also taxing some of the unhealthy foods and
Yeah.
maybe less tax on the fresh and healthier like vegetables would be good. And that would help push. I mean, we're gonna import everything, but if it's less tax, that could also help. I know,
Right.
and a good thing, even your supplements, I think there's no tax on those, so that's a good thing. So we're not too bad.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I always say is we could reduce the tax on what I call normal healthy food, not the supernatural healthy food, and increase the tax on fast foods and stuff like that, right? Which really putting us in our grave quicker than we need to be. But
Yep,
all that happens in time,
most definitely, most definitely.
right? So, right in line with your expertise or your specialty expertise, you say the
Oh,
Bahamas
this
is
is my
facing
area.
rising cases, cases of
Mhm.
diabetes, hypertension, and other life related diseases. How can food be the first line of defense in preventing these ailments?
Um, Definitely agree with you that This is an ongoing challenge with what we call non-communicable diseases. So diabetes, hypertension, and also now they're adding, well, they've already added here chronic kidney disease. So you see a lot of persons who are having chronic kidney disease. So they call them, I like how you say lifestyle related. So looking at food as medicine, what the US is calling them now is diet related diseases, right? Because it really impacts whether either the management of it or even the prevention of it. So the question is, how can food be a first line of defense? So first, I will start with where we began earlier, is utilizing food as medicine and medicine as food. So with diabetes, and let's look at hypertension. So we know that the more salt, the more that you have excess body weight and the less active you are, right? That these diseases are going usually were onset like a little later in 50s, 60s. But now we're seeing a lot more persons who are they'll like in their late 30s that
Right.
are having diet related diseases such as a stroke or hypertension or chronic kidney failure. And it's really based on their consumption of ongoing consumption. Because I'm not saying, like you said before, it's not just no, but if
Right.
that is your nutritional habits every day, you don't get fruits and vegetables, you don't get your balanced, healthy oils, but all you do is the fast food, the salty chips, all of the sports drinks, which are also filled with salt.
And
All you do is
fries.
right, the fries and stuff. It eventually is catching up to the younger generation now. I think more so because they're not as active. And so now the age for the onset of these diet related diseases is becoming so much younger. So we have to now, I think they know. I think they definitely, it's not like a knowledge discrepancy. So they do know that hypertension and these things based on what they're eating, the salt. But why
Mhm.
aren't they applying these, okay, lifestyle, these changes? So we have some
Mhm.
work to do there. Same thing with the diabetes. So we can use food as a first line of defense by really trying to build a better plate. We can use food as a defense if you already have it. So
Mhm.
now, what we do every day is okay, you're in hospital, you already have hypertension, you already have diabetes, you're already on kidney failure, or you're already on dialysis. So we now need to try to sustain how can we structure your meal plan and your lifestyle to tell you these are the foods you are allowed and these are the foods that you should try to avoid or limit as best as you can so that
Mhm.
we can manage these as a maybe not first line of defense right now, but it'll be like a second line of defense. First line
Right.
of defense is before you are even, as we're younger now, you're going into the schools at Gambler, you're teaching them choose maybe a healthy smoothie in the morning, you teach them how to grow their vegetables and talk about the plate method so that they
Mhm.
now realize that, oh, so you're telling me my plate should be colorful like a rainbow. So it starts a little earlier. So we have some work to do with the kids, and not having the tuck shops or the trunk vendors with all the
Right.
what you call it, the Navaleda and the salty and stuff like that, but maybe having a balance with some other healthier stuff.
Yeah.
Fruit
And they
stuff.
have carbon dioxide too. Right. Mixed up in that.
Exactly.
They say
So
that's what give it the flavor. Mhm.
right. So we have our work to do. I think it's a good question. I really love this question because it says, how can you use food be a first line of defense in preventing these ailments? But the regular human population, especially the more adult population, is really not a first line of defense right now because it's already far gone. We're
Mhm.
using it. We have to now apply it as a second line of defense, along with what we're doing medically with the physician, and whether you're on medication to either try to say, work along with the meds or to just, eliminate the meds. And then that's how we can use food as medicine to help as the second line of defense so that your condition is not worsened or exacerbated. So that's a very good question. So the first line, we got to work with the younger ones, definitely.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, I
What do you
don't
think?
I don't like medicine. Anything would come in a tablet and all that kind of stuff. Not that I'm afraid of them or anything like that. I just don't believe that they're natural, so I don't want to put them in my body as much as anything else. Yeah, if I get a headache for a long time or something, yeah, you pop a Advil or something, whatever it is. Or cold.
Or drink some water.
Yeah, but most of the time I drink in the water. Yeah. Or go find some fever grass from some of my church people, and let them make me one. Nice fever grass,
I have
ginger.
that too. I have
ginger
fever
thing.
grass. I have rosemary. So definitely
All of
fever
those
grass.
things. Yeah.
The
And I
fever
think a lot of
grass
people
is-
have inflammation and people don't realize the power of rosemary with inflammation, right?
Mhm,
So forth.
mhm.
So I think we need to learn more about what these different things that we have in our yard or in the bush or whatever that we could use
It
to
does.
do
I
things.
think
Right?
if we can get like some, I'd be open to it. So now, like, I'm glad you say learn, right, Dale? Because remember now, you talk about the pill and why you hate that, right? And I've worked in pharmaceuticals before, but we'll just say that back then the investment is to really formulate this pill and then say, okay, this is now an opportunity to sell and make the money and make this claim. But they use and some of them have some substantial claims that
Benefit. Yeah.
work. Right. So definitely, like you're looking at infection, you need antibiotics. So back then, I think it was, I don't know if it was in the 1800s when whoever discovered penicillin, right? And that is the key to help with a lot of throat infections. It was good, right? And so, but more research then went into, hey, we can get into these, but the research went into the pharmaceuticals, not so much how do we look at the fever grass? Who's funding that fever grass or the rosemary or the aloe or some bush in Andres that Grammy used after she had her babies and it really helped to clean her out, or some skin ailment, they used the shepherd needle to boil that, and how to, because you usually have all these like stuff on your skin and you use the shepherd needle and they tell you bathe in that. And for some reason it dried up, right? It dried up the stuff.
Also,
But
the sage.
the fact of the matter is nobody's really investing in that. But back then, but now they're trying to structure it and systemize it. You look at some research using black seed oil against cancer. So we're now going back to using food as medicine and looking at ways we can look at evidence-based.
All of those things are part of the pillars of the new built environment, right? That will help us become more prosperous or more sustainable, and so forth.
Yes.
And I remember my mom always talks about my grandmother when she had I think it was a thyroid, and the doctors told her that she would not be able to talk, and she said, "No, y'all ain't talking to me." So she left, came back to Bahamas, said she just need to go in the ocean. She came back, did her thing, went in the ocean, and with all the other stuff that she find in the backyard that she just do. And a couple of years later, she went back to the doctor and told the receptionist to tell Dr. XYZ, Mrs. Dillard is here in the lobby waiting, and make sure I tell him that I said so. So apparently the doctor was in a session and he came flying out there trying to figure out, can't be Mrs. Dillard, who he sent home, wasn't going to be able to talk. And sure enough, she was right there talking, strong as ever, what have you. And, that's why I think that we sitting on power, that we don't know how to use our enthusiasm to make it work for us. So that's a whole industry in itself.
Yes.
So for those who feel like they don't have control over their diet to the lifestyle or economic challenges, what strategies can empower them to take charge of their nutrition?
Well, that's definitely a tough question too. We keep really going down policy and go.
Okay, so we can skip that one then. Yeah, let's skip
No,
that
but
one.
I can.
Let's skip that one. I just
But
see.
we can definitely answer because they have a lot of food support programs, like that you can find out where you can really empower yourselves if economic challenge. Like they have Hands for Hunger, food banks, and those things that I think they're also trying to work with dietitians and nutritionists to not just like feeding programs, like you did with the schools, to not just offer just like the junk food, but the foods, the donated food or the program is still well balanced so that overall health and well-being, and also that they're nourished for success. So I think I can answer that question that yes, we do have, the government does have a few, I think, social services where persons can reach out to really tap into those resources. They also have some food banks or donations from churches. So you have to really look at, and you may not, that family may not be the ones that look, but you may know that that person is in need and know of a resource, and you can help
Right.
out and take charge and tell them, hey, I just bought you a bag of oranges, or did you know that this church? And I think that's where the community can come together a lot better, other than just like some limited churches that are helping feed some kids. But
Right.
many elderly have what we call food insecurity. You call it food insecurity or challenges, and that they're living alone, and they're eating the noodles or the canned spaghetti. So, but it can
Right.
be a
Yeah.
lot healthier. So I challenge you to bring a program to the elderly, bringing health back to our um, senior citizens
Right.
with, donated nourishments and stuff.
Cool. So empowering our citizens to shape their own success. How can embracing food education and preparation at home create better long-term health outcomes for individuals and families?
How can embracing food education and preparation at home create? Yeah, so it's important to definitely embrace, like listen to programs like this.
Yes.
Um, reach out to, we often do a lot of lecture series. This is National Nutrition Month, so you can
Mhm.
always like check on different series from either any one of the institution, whether it is the hospital institution, the public health hospital authority with PMH. You have some community clinics where there's also dietitians that work for the government, and also private. So using that to really get knowledge base. You can also trust sites like eatright.org, the Diabetes Association of America. They can give you tips and use those guidelines and education to show you. Watch videos, preparation home videos on YouTube, how to make a balanced smoothie. Okay.
Right.
That's easy. And so really incorporating not just education as I do from day to day or reading, but you can use online platforms. You can use the different government clinics, or different, they have what they call, I think, the wellness unit now in the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
And you also have private entities like Doctor's Hospital, which I'm a part of, that you can reach out to. And you have associations like the Kidney Foundation, the Diabetes Association. So embracing food education, they have a lot of strategies that you can engage and take it at home and put it into practice.
With enthusiasm. Cool.
With
Right.
enthusiasm. So join these groups, visit a club, or just give us a call.
Yeah, the bottom line is just don't wait on somebody to do it for you. Get out there and do it. Make it happen, like Nike say, right? So some argue that modern diets are drifting too far from traditional whole foods. How do we find a balance between innovation and preserving nutritional wisdom from the past?
Definitely
Is there a
drifting.
balance?
It's I don't think there's a balance in terms of a connect between
Two.
wholesome and
Okay.
artificial. There it's everything is packaged, so when you look at your plate, if you have to open it up, okay, that's number one process, right? Even let's just look at something as simple as rice. What kind of brand of rice we use? Mahatma, right? Can we pick that Mahatma rice off the tree? Not really. That has been processed, right? We package that. But we can go to the outside of the aisle and we can get some sweet potatoes. We can pick that. We can take that up. We can get some okra, some green beans. So we do need like the packets butter, the rice, the grits, and those things. But try to balance the process or from the whole foods. Try to balance as trying to get as less processed as possible. Okay. So those instant cereal, that's highly processed. We don't eat TV dinners and stuff like that. But
Right.
you would rather get a snapper than a can of, I don't know, mahi and something.
Roman noodles?
Yeah, ramen noodles. So what we do is our rule of thumb is fresh is number one. Second, frozen, canned last. So everything fresh for wholesome. So we have to balance now. We're going to need some packaged bread. We're going to need some packaged crackers. So when we're looking at these stuff, how do we not stay too far from drifting? Look as less ingredients added to these stuff, less artificial coloring and flavoring. So if you're going to get a juice, you don't want to get it with all that red dye and purple dye and those kind of things. Or these, like the kids eat the hot fire pepper chips. You see their fingers are red. All that is, the red dyes. I'm not getting into America, but, we have a new health. They have a new health person who's, I think, is that the Kennedy guy who's really caught up on the artificial flavorings and artificial things we're adding to food. And though, I'm not political, but he's on the right. I think that is definitely the right track because remember, these food companies came around not just to make you healthy, but to make money. So if you can stay whole foods from your local vendors, your fish, your conch, your chicken, try to get the organic chicken or some eggs and just the outside of the outskirt of the food store. You realize on the outskirt of the food store, you start with your breads, your vegetables, your meats. Everything on the inside is processed in the inside aisles.
Right. On the most part. Sometimes they stick some things in there just to make sure that you're on the outside so you could pick them up.
That's true, I see that all of a sudden. I'm seeing that. So how did these crackers get in?
People always ask me how I go to the food store and be out in and out so quick. Well, first of all, my mom and sisters go to the food store for regular. So I only go for stuff like what I can be doing for my nuts in the evening. Because after 6 o'clock, after I eat my dinner, I only want to eat things like nuts and things like that will keep my metabolism running. And then in the morning, I have my smoothies. In the middle of the day, I might have a sound lunch. At least when I'm near places will have food. Cool. Okay, so how can local farmers, businesses, consumers work together to strengthen the food system and improve overall nutrition in the Bahamas and our health? Because that's what it's going to end up doing.
So it's a collaborative effort. So you're looking at commerce here, right? and the whole production chain. So if we can strengthen the local farmers, support them, like create a volume, they can
Right.
bring more stuff to your wholesalers for us to, of course, quality checks with nutrition and those type of things, and the quality of the product, then to get to those businesses that we normally um, go to, the food stores, to ensure that they, as those businesses, are also putting some of our grown stuff and products on their shelves, not just all export. I think there should be some policy that is made to these food suppliers or food store, the retail stores, that if you're strengthening the local farmers now, there should be some type of uh, agreement or saying that 20% of your produce or 50% should come from local farmers and the rest you can import. That's how you support one another or strengthen this whole food system. But there's no I don't think there's no restrictions on Super Value or Fresh Market to say that you are mandated to buy from these places. So this is where we get into policies and driven to really, if you answer this question, and also consumers, then they can know that also keeps down the price. So it really has to do with strengthening the local farmers, ensuring that maybe if the farmers are producing the stuff to get to the consumer in terms of commerce, that these businesses understand that the government is mandating that you open the doors for them to be able to sell quality products to your consumers and limit as much of the export. So why are you importing tomatoes if we have it? Or I'm sure there is maybe some type of policy, but I don't know if we go massive. But these are the things that we're going to have to do, so that not that it only strengthens our food system, but also strengthens our sustainability and also overall nutrition. So here too, you have to apply persons like myself who may be, well, not so much clinical nutrition, but you have food nutritionists who study food science and they study production and bringing stuff to market. So you have persons who do the other part of nutrition and make sure that quality products are coming to the consumers, either from the farmers or from what are we exporting and what we are importing is good enough for us. Let's not talk about the eggs.
Yes, those good old eggs. Those was $12, $13 eggs at one point, I think. Yeah. So if somebody wants to start making better food choices today, what one but small but impactful change they can make right now? What would you say if you take one low-hanging fruit that we could do, change, that we can make things have a big dent in what happens today?
What happens today in terms of like food choices today?
Choices, yeah. So if we go to the food store, we go to the farm, we go to Wendy's, we go to all the different fast food people, so forth. So what small change can we do?
What I would recommend, I would, from let's just say in terms of health.
We got health, culture, and identity, right? They're the three main things.
Boy, that's a tough one. So I guess I would say shape up your plate. And that sounds, I guess it's still too broad, but I would say try to eliminate the added salt, sugar, and fat.
Salt and sugar.
Salt, sugar, and fat, yeah. Especially the salts. We have a lot of persons who, that's the number one, hypertension and diabetes. Salt and sugar. If we could.
What about acidity stuff?
Not so much. We're talking, persons, not so much. But
I know it's big in cancer, right? So,
So we're looking at alkaline diets and stuff. That's very individualized and personalized, based on what you're going through. So you look at, looking at your labs and looking at that individual aspect of meal planning specific for
Okay.
controlling,
Yeah.
making
Okay.
sure that you keep a not so acidic, inflammatory diet. So, but when you're just looking at the general population and you're talking about how can we if one thing is what Bahamians we can do is really try to limit excess salt and sugar
Sugar,
in our
salt,
diet.
and sugar.
Yes, because, every day this patient, history of diabetes, history of hypertension. And then the sugar and the diabetes and the salt, if that is not controlled, that leads to kidney issues. So they're the number 3 things. Well, so you got
And
the heart,
and the kidney, why is that so important that you don't want that to get messed up?
and that is taking over. Why? Because of excess salt. And the salt is hidden. We're saying we're not putting the table salt, but that's not where all the salt lies. We have hidden salts in everything that is packaged or processed, even salts in what we're drinking.
Yeah, but the kidney itself, when that starts to fail, what does that do to your body?
Well, the kidney is a filter, so it's supposed to
Many people out there don't know that.
get rid of toxins. It's supposed to get rid of toxins, and just like it is like the liver, it helps to eliminate toxins. So when these toxins back up and they can't be filtered out of your bloodstream, you really are in a bad state. You can start getting congestive heart failure. You get fluid everywhere that's floating around all through your body. You're not able to breathe properly because there's putting so much strain on the heart and the lungs, because the sodium. You're looking at some other minerals that need to be controlled, potassium and phosphorus. So all these are diet related. So, but if we start just by controlling the amount of salt and the amount of sugar, so instead of, drinking that cold Vitamalt, which is really sweet, it tastes good on a good
I got to
day.
cut them out.
On a good day, we could probably make a little lemonade switcher, just a little added little sweetener. I'll just maybe try a sparkling flavored water. So, I think all of us, not just the listening audience, but include myself inclusive, is that we can use it as a second line of defense. But second line of defense now, try to cut back on the added artificial salts and sugars, the salt and sugars in our diet. That'll go a long way.
So,
to keep
S&S, salt and sugar. Remember that, people. S&S, salt and sugar. Okay, so you have shared a wealth of knowledge. How does one generate the enthusiasm to capitalize on all of this wealth of information?
Well, as you were listening to us, I thought you were enthusiastic already. I thought you're ready to go out there now and say, Miss Strachan, where can I meet you? Where can I come and do a program with you, or get a group of persons to do a cooking class and talk about meal planning? How can we talk about the right supplements for us? So you listen to stuff. So you generate the enthusiasm from just staying in the know.
Cool.
Staying in the know and dispelling all the myths and just setting some goals. Like this year, I'm going to be more active this year. You don't just think of just weight, but you're looking at doing your annuals, look at what your labs say. So if you're hypertensive or you're a little touch of diabetes, okay, let me control this. Okay. So, you got to own it to generate enthusiasm.
Right. And understand where you could become successful or where you could yield benefit, right? Keep that in your mindset and you will be energized in order to achieve that. Just do it a little bit at a time. You don't have to do these massive things. So,
one step at a time, small goals.
Right.
Set small. Yeah. You set smart goals, small, specific,
achievable.
realistic and timely, and you set a time frame for that. And you
Yes,
can
yes.
always, you know,
You always need a leader and helper and mentor and guidance and coaching. So you could do a lot of that. Yeah.
yeah. Rome
Cool.
wasn't
So,
built in one day. So don't try to go cold turkey. You just say, okay, you know what? I can do that. I can cut out the vitamin during Lent.
yeah. Well, that's a good place to start if you want to cut out things. You get a crew. That's the next thing. Tell somebody what you want to do because they can remind you. Right? So forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I've asked you a wealth of questions now. Is there anything that we haven't covered or just glossed over that you would wish to elaborate on or add something significant to the table?
Um, like I said before, so I just would like to end with this is that, food is medicine, looking at food as preventative medicine to encourage health and well being. That is the key to use it either to help you, but not to harm you. Food is medicine to improve your nutrition security. We talk about how we can tie on to others or recommend certain programs or even start like a program to help another fellow neighbor or a group of elderly or a group of young children, like in the Gambler School, to really nourish them and do something to help them keep food as medicine. Food is medicine in terms of disease management and prevention. If you're in hospital, we have to look at how we can use that to promote either not making your condition worse, but really to really also and finally use food as a to connect us all and to really use it as an enjoyment, but how to really balance it every day, every meal, and every bite.
Awesome stuff. So, folks, we'd like to thank Yvette Strachan here for sharing all these nuggets with us today. Hopefully, you found value in them and you will be able to use them to make yourself become stronger in your walk, become more socially connected, more healthy, and to understand who you are through what you eat, right? So once you know those things, then maybe you will look when you go to pick up something, you will think twice and you think about it, right? And then you say, you can pause and you think about that with intention thought and consider what's going to happen, right? That's what we always say on something to think about. Keep that in mind when you pick up something off the table. So, madam, we'd love to thank you kindly for coming here today and sharing these nuggets, and we look forward for you to come back where we could dive into maybe one specific area to help people, maybe more of your specialty of experience, etc. Because I'm of the belief that sugar, you mentioned sugar and salt. I wasn't focusing on salt too much, but sugar is pretty much causing almost all of our challenges in some way. That's my belief. I'm no science, no doctor, but I get enough engineering knowledge in my head to see the logic that it could happen.
There you go.
Yes.
Well, thank
so
you
hope
so
you
much
enjoyed
for
yourself.
having me. I did. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, bye-bye.
Yes. So, folks, you've been watching Something to Think About with Dale Happy Knowles, and we've had Yvette Strachan on today, and we've been talking about nutrition and how food connects us as they celebrate their nutrition month. And we want you to be able to use this knowledge in order to empower yourself, because one of the main things we talked about was clarity of thought, empowering yourself to have energy, not to be fill yourself up with toxins and all that, so your body become efficient. And with all of that, if you're efficient at your most efficient, then you have the best chance of you becoming successful at whatever you choose to do in life. So until next time, next week, when we have another knowledgeable and powerful guest on the show, we want you to stay safe. And when you go to pick up that food that you don't think you should be eating, Pause. Think about it with intentional thought and consider where we go from here.
Enjoyed the show? Then subscribe to us for more educational and inspirational content. Ring the bell so you never miss a show. Let's change the narrative 242